Hi, it's me, Just Kyia. My real life according to me. Just Kyia, Jusskya. So, this is season 4, episode 11. Thank you. Let's go. Okay. So, if you've seen the previous episode, that was the conclusion of me and Anthony, and amen. So, I'm going to share a little bit more about my nursing rotation here and then go into my graduation. So our third semester, we go into more like ICU, critical care, NICU, and the second half of third semester is psych rotation. So I would like to share here an experience I had where I was going to Torrance Memorial for my third semester, and I was in my NICU rotation. And that's with the little babies and issues and things that are going on with the babies. Even in school, it wasn't my strongest point, pediatrics and things like that. I didn't have an interest, a passion for it, and I didn't do my best grades there, but I got the gist of it and I made it through. So as we're doing this rotation, and I'm quite vocal about how I can't stand the NICU and these parents, these women these girls that are having these babies, and this is kind of what I was dealing with internally. And they don't care, and here I am, and I'm going back in my mind like, when I was with Kenny, I don't even have a baby. I would love to have a baby. And these girls, women, people, whatever, are just getting pregnant and with no regard and just, you know. And I was resentful. I was. And as I was doing that rotation, of course, I wouldn't display it to the mothers or like different people that didn't want women that didn't want their baby, or the babies are born addictive, or just a multitude of things. I wouldn't per se display that, but in the same sense, no, I didn't give them my A1 attention or care like I really should have. But no disrespect, no abuse or anything like that, of course. And I just looked at them with kind of detest, I guess. But I most definitely would keep it to myself, because here I am doing whatever and I can't even have a baby. Okay, man, because I'm like 30, I'm still 31. Yeah, 31. And I'm here. Okay, you got the point, right? So I'm going through this rotation, and I start, because at this point I do realize that the Lord is very present in my life. I do realize this now, believe it or not. Yeah, it took all this time, but to a certain degree, I'm like, when I look back on things, I'm like, wow, he was there, he's there. So as I was doing my rotation at Torrance Memorial Hospital, and the first half of the rotation is where you take care of the high risk moms and different things like that. And then the second part of the rotation, you start taking care of the infants, the NICU, the neonate, the babies, with all whatever issue they were born with, you start taking care of them. So first I was taking care of the mom. Now I'm in the second half of the rotation. Yeah, I passed. I passed barely with a B. I struggled for that. And okay. So now we're still at Torrance Memorial, and I'm in the NICU department. And I've never been comfortable with taking care of someone else's child in that setting because I had my own hang up. I didn't want to take care of babies. I didn't want to be around babies. I don't have my own baby. So I really did not want to, I did not look forward to this rotation of taking care of babies. And then babies that had issues, and then babies that are not like normal, and then babies that whatever my thinking was, it wasn't good. And remember, I stated before that I was drinking. I'm still drinking. I'm not drinking to go there, but once I get off and to get through things, I'm having my beer, and it's still not a day that go by, and I'm still just struggling. And this rotation really took me somewhere mentally that I didn't even realize I was there, in a sense to where when I did NICU, I did not like any of these. I did not want to take care of no babies. I felt no bond. I didn't want to hold them. Nothing. I did not want to do this rotation. It brought up all these things about me not having a baby, and just within myself, and then to know why they're in that situation, because their mom that was carrying them. I mean, I'm reiterating this because that's just how serious it was for me. I had no desire to even pick up a baby. So my first day in the NICU, and you're only in each rotation at the hospital like 2 weeks, like 4 shifts, basically. So my first shift in NICU, I go in and they give me my two babies. No, my bad. My one baby, because you could only do, I'm said two, but you could only, as a student, take on one. You don't have the skill to take on two. And it was more so you had to look up the history, what happened, how did this baby, and this is what you had to do with all your patients. You always had to either go in the night before or come in early enough to get your H&P, which is your physical and history. You have to get their medical, their family, just get all of this just to get the full picture. So, I had the one baby. And like I said, I didn't want to do this. So normally I would come in the night before and do a little research and kind of, get a feel for things. And I didn't. So I got there that morning, and I got my baby. His name was Franklin, and that's his real name, Franklin. He was a little black baby, and very, very tiny, very fragile. He didn't have any tubes or anything, but he was the most tiniest baby. I think, if I can remember correctly, at the time, he was about 2 or 3 months old, and he was only, I want to say, maybe 10 or 11 pounds. And quite candidly, so when I first, Franklin is, and I haven't looked up his history or anything, and I just go to my internship that day, that morning, get report, and I just go in the room and I look down at this baby. And like I said, I didn't look up anything about him. So the way he looked, he looks like he could have been like a from India, and but very small. Like I said, I think he was only 10, 11 pounds. Well, maybe not that little. I want to say, but he was dramatically little. Okay, 10 pounds, birth, 3 months. Yeah, I want to say 10. Let's just say 50. I want to say 10, 11 pounds, maybe 15 pounds. Very tiny. But he was thriving, not thriving, but he didn't have any tubes or anything. And he was like 2, 3 months old. So I go in the room, and you have your paper you have to fill out, different things, assessment, and, all these things. And I looked at the baby, and he's just kind of there, just looking very docile, very, no, none of this, just laying there. And then when you look at his skin was not an attractive appeal. It was, it looked like sores, maybe. I'm not sure. They had a little t-shirt on him. His little legs, I mean, just the skinniest little baby I've ever seen. No, absolutely no hair on his head. And I just looked at him, and I didn't want to touch him or anything because of me dealing with me. And I just sat there, and he didn't make a sound. And I sat there and just started filling out my paper. I started filling out my paper where they give you this grid where you got to turn in at every shift. And I started making up things. And I didn't get far into making up things to where this isn't right. Because first of all, I'm not even doing well in NICU. I'm not doing well in pediatrics because it's just not my thing. Another thing is, okay, I'm not learning from this experience. And another thing, it's just, okay, it's not right. But I didn't want to do it. So I you get multiple copies. So I ripped that one up, threw it out. I said, okay. So I still haven't went to his H&P. I still haven't seen his chart or anything. So I stood up and I look at this baby, and it's just so void. The whole face of this baby is so void, and he's just laying there. And then I started looking at his skin, and I started doing a physical visual assessment of him. That what I did know about, I still got to pass, and I still got to read, and he was not acting like a normal baby, because a normal baby at this time, first of all, they weigh a lot more. And so now my medical side is kicking in, as well as I have that maternal instinct where I feel like, oh my God, why is he in this situation? And then in the same sense, my mind is going to the mother or whoever. How did he get here? And all these things are going on in my mind. And so I said, okay. I did give a quick little prayer there. I said, Lord, please just help me, or something like that. I said something very simple. And then I looked at him and his skin, and I started noticing on his skin, it was a pattern of like bruises, but they were like circular all over his arms, all over his legs, because he just had a little t-shirt on. And remember, I haven't done my due diligence. I haven't done that yet. I haven't looked at his H&P, his history, his physical and history, or anything, or even how he got there, So, but I noticed that. And then I noticed, with me thinking now, okay, let's Kyia, your training or whatever. He's laying there, no emotion, no movement, no cooing. If you don't feed him, he ain't gonna eat. He didn't show no desire for anything. He had no sense of thrive, no sense of purpose, no sense of nothing. I noticed that when I step back and start, not trying just to make up something on my assessment. So I did the visual assessment, and at the same time, I'm still not wanting to engage in this. And I really am forcing myself through this. And at this time, I proceeded, because once you have the baby, you just do everything for this. So I proceeded to do more of an assessment. So change his diaper, assess the genital areas, and change the t-shirt, freshen him up, give him a little, sponge down. And the whole time I'm doing this, there's no emotion from this baby. There's no resistance. There's no interaction. There's no emotion at all. So I got them all together, and at this point I was feeling something, but I didn't know what it was. Okay, so how do I want to tell this story? Okay, because Franklin is very dear to me. Okay, so literally that was kind of my first shift with him, because at the end of each shift you don't turn it in, you get the week or whatever to accumulate this information. So I'm still in my feelings, and then that was like a Tuesday, because we would do clinical like Tuesdays and Thursdays. When I tell you, I went home and Franklin was on my mind, but I didn't know why, but he was. And then Wednesday came about, and then, okay, not thinking about Franklin anymore. And then Thursday come about, I'm still not even thinking about him. And then when we get there, of course, it's continuity of care. So, of course, you're going to get the same one. And I didn't even think about it. So, of course, I have Franklin. He's still there. But if they're not there, you don't get them again. But Franklin is still there. So I'm assigned to Franklin. And no, I still have not did my due diligence and looked at his chart. But I remember him. So at this time, I go in there a little bit more like, okay, let's get this done. Like, I ain't gonna worry about it, whatever. And I go in there, pump myself up. And he's laying in that crib, once again, emotionless. But those eyes, this day, I notice his eyes. He just looks at me, and he just lays there. And then once again, I notice his skin with the circular, whatever it is, on his arms and legs. But today I notice his eyes. Intense eyes. Begging eyes. Lonely eyes. Deep, passionate, desire eyes. I see his eyes right now, this very moment. And this is what, 30 years later? How long were we in 2020? 20 years later, I can see his eyes right now, that little boy. And okay, I need to dig into his story. I feel him. I still haven't picked him up yet, which I really should have done it Tuesday. I still haven't picked him up yet. He doesn't even seem like he desires to be picked up, okay? But I still haven't picked him up. So I dig into his chart, and come to find out, he was born to an addictive mother, and as well as an addictive father. They list multiple substance, and then they go on to describe how Franklin ended up there, that his mother gave birth to him, and before they had a chance to test her or whatever, she quickly escaped the hospital. The father had stayed back. She went to go do whatever she had to do, and then, but the father stayed there. But he was addictive too, but not as bad off at that time as her. So it seemed. So he was still there, and very quietly underweight, and they tested him, of course, and found out what he had in his system at the time he was born. Remember, I said he's two months now. 2 months. And so this is not right when he was born. So the mother left, and the father was still there. And as the father stayed there, he presented himself, even though they knew he had an issue probably, but not for sure, that they did let the baby go home to him. She quickly left the hospital and abandoned and go do whatever. Okay. So while he's in the hospital now, when they released the baby to him, his father, they got a call, and I didn't know any of this before. They got a call, and the mother and the father were on a binge of getting high, doing what they do. And what the father ended up doing was taking his cigarette and burning Franklin. That's what those circular things was all over his arms and legs. Multiple times, just burning this baby. And they weren't feeding the baby. And that's why he was so underweight, and they wasn't picking him up and all these things. So this is that Thursday where I notice his eyes, and I read this. I felt like the scum of, not even the scum of the earth. I felt lower than that, because I went in there with my own perceived disappointments of not having a baby, and she have a baby, and all this bullshit that I'm thinking of. And the first day, I didn't even pick up this baby, Franklin. And then here I am Thursday, still coming in here with my preconceived issues. If I can kick my own ass. And I'm halfway into Thursday. I still have not picked up this baby Franklin, looking at me and emotionally, emotionalist, and emotionally, those eyes. To this day, Franklin is in my heart. So once I finished reading the story and figuring out why he had the markings on his body, and he still never showed me any emotion, but his eyes, he watched and he tracked me, but he didn't show any emotion. And I was standing over his bed, and before I picked him up, I asked him for forgiveness. I asked Franklin for forgiveness that I judge, and I didn't have a connection with him because of my own personal issue, because of my desire to have a baby is what held me emotionally from him. Before I would even touch him again, I asked him for his forgiveness. And I apologized to him that I couldn't be not the nurse, but I couldn't be the human being, that loving human being, no matter what, without preconceived ideas. And as I prayed with him, before I picked him up, he gave me a smile. I promise you. He gave me a little smile, and that was the first time I ever seen any emotion from him, any detour in his personality, instead of just laying there being void. And that was the first time I picked him up. And I picked him up, and like I said, he wouldn't even move his limbs or anything, and I was holding him. It was the greatest moment of my life. And I knew, and I know, I will never forget Franklin. I will never forget him. And then as I went on to read his story, after now we done went to the second level, and we have this great, even I'm seeing a little bit more from him. Don't get me wrong, he's not cooing and doing all of that. But those eyes, he communicated with me so deeply with those eyes. And for the rest of that, the time I was there, I held him, changed him, bonded with him. And then so it's an hour, maybe 2 hours. Actually, I think it's 2 hours before my shift is about to end. And this is the second time I'm seeing Franklin. And then this middle-aged white woman shows up. And she says, hi, what are you doing? I said, oh, my name is Kyia. I'm a student nurse. And I was like, start talking about Franklin or something. I don't know. I'm taking care of Franklin or something like that. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, oh, who are you? And she said, well, I'm his foster mother. I was like, oh, hi. Well, do you know how to take care of him? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just holding him now and whatever. Well, I need you to put him down because it's very meticulous how you have to take care of him. And I said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, and I laid him back down. And I said, well, we have to read, and I'm trying to express to her I have read his H&P and, and this, that, and whoop the whoop. And then she comes at me to where when she started handling Franklin, because now we got a bond. Now, okay, wait, hold up. I felt quite rough, especially knowing his history, especially you're a foster mother, especially his history. I felt she was very rough and very not, I guess, seeing what I saw in him. So, of course, I'm just a student. I didn't say anything. And I'm just checking her out. I'm peeping her out or whatever. Okay. And I have to go. And then thank God, as we was wrapping up things, she had stepped out the room, and I went back into Franklin's room, and we kind of should have been off the floor. Now we did report and everything. And I went back, and I promised him I would check up on him. And I said, I hope I see you again, because at any point, I don't know what's going to happen. He can go home. I don't know how to detour that at this point. So I just promised him, like, I want to see you again, or however, I'm going to see you again. Something like that I said. And just those eyes. So that was Thursday, right? So remember I told you we have 4 rotations. So this is basically 2 weeks. So Tuesday, I'm eagerly waiting to get to the Torrance Memorial to see if Franklin is still there. So guess what I do? I do my due diligence. I come there like 2 hours before I shift starts so I can see if he's there. And if he's there, I can claim him. He was still there. He was still there. So I claimed him. I got his chart. I did all my due diligence. I did all this report and I'm looking up everything and I'm just doing everything. And I'm really, and this is the best report I ever turned in and everything. So once you can't go into the room and stuff or do all this assessment, you have to do your clinical instructor has to be there and whoop de whoop and they have to approve. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So the shift started and I go in to see Franklin. I was so excited. And I go in to see Franklin. No one's there. And he's just laying there, not making a sound. And instantly our eyes connect and he's still not, and I instantly picked him up because I already did all my paperwork. And I literally held him and talked to him my entire shift that I was there. I think we were there 6 hours at a time then. And I held him and I gave him as much affection as I could. And I talked to him about Christ. And I just, say, I don't know, but you're going to be, and I'm just saying all these things to him in my, capability at that age. And we bonded. And I want to swear I seen the smile, but I can't 100%. I maybe a smirk, and, so that was Tuesday. Then Thursday, he was still there, but I couldn't have him as my patient and he was getting discharged. And so come to find out, however, I don't know the particulars of it, but they was discharging him back to his father. And it was very hard. It was very hard for me to be there on that Thursday and realize that, of course, I can't say anything. I don't really know the particulars of it. But, okay, we're at 32, and I don't know what happened with Franklin after that. But for a while, and even to this day, I see that beautiful face of his. I see those intense eyes of his, and amen. That helped me get through and be, because of Franklin, I was able to continue that rotation, and actually I did quite well in it, and I put more effort and due diligence towards it, but in the same sense, I didn't look at it as me personally, I don't have any kids or whatever. I was able to quite effectively embrace these babies, and because of Franklin. Okay, I'm going to end it there. And there's a couple, I'm just going to end it there. And amen. Thank you, Lord. I mean, okay. My real life according to me, Juss Kyia. Jusskya. Thank you. I appreciate you. Let's inspire, encourage, and challenge each other. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, that's like the drop. Until next time. Thank you. I appreciate me. I appreciate you. I love me. Please love you. Oh no, I'm trying to find the button, so I'm trying to say something while I find the button. Bye.